What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you the games I'm looking forward to the most in 2026, which is officially just around the corner now that we're past Christmas, but not quite to New Year's here. As it stands, I'm already, of course, looking forward to the new year and all the new games I will hopefully get to play and organizing them accordingly, and so I've obviously got a list of some of the titles I'm looking forward to playing the most personally. Now, the catch to that is, with this particular video, anyway, I am specifically talking about 2026, meaning that anything that is slated for farther out than that is well past the scope of this video. And what's more, if it does not have a confirmed release window of 2026, I'm not including it here either. That one is especially of note for things like Warhammer 40k Dark Heresy, or other games that might be releasing into early access but are not really releasing fully, such as Solasta 2, that's getting a March early access release. So, long story short, if it doesn't have a release window for 2026 or it is not fully releasing, then it's not going to be on here in case you're wondering about any glaring omissions. Otherwise, let's go ahead and dive fully into this, kicking it off with the one we are likely to see the soonest, I would imagine, which is none other than Nioh 3. I have played and reviewed both Nioh 1 and 2. I really enjoyed both of them, but more than anything, I think they are the sort of high point in Team Ninja's approaches to combat, which I have enjoyed more generally across the mini games they have made. But I don't think any of them do it quite as well as Nioh 1 and 2 did. And while I could go on about the merits of each one individually and the, ways they change those systems and refine them from 1 to 2, that kind of thing, long story short, they just hit the right combination of the things I like from sort of like Souls-esque action games on top of the way they handle their gear and loot progression. All has me pretty excited to dive back into the world of Nioh and see just how much they've added on to and learned from their prior experiences, including the things that I don't think necessarily worked out super well, like Wo Long as an example. Now, the sort of catch to this, though, having played many of other Team Ninja's games, but especially relevant here, is that it will almost certainly be getting DLC afterward that will add several layers of difficulty, that kind of thing to it, that allow for deeper progression, which was especially important for things like, again, Nioh 1 and 2, where the New Game Plus cycle is a whole experience unto itself. So, with that in mind, they've already got at least 2 DLC planned for this game, just judging by the season pass they're selling over on the Steam page as an example, so a lot to look forward there, for me at the very least, with not too much longer to wait as that comes out right at the beginning of February. The next game I wanted to mention was the second one that we have an actual confirmed release date for, and that is Crimson Desert, releasing on March 19th. Now, I will say, some of my interest in Crimson Desert is just to sate my own curiosity, because from everything I've seen with this game, it looks to be the type of experience that's trying to do a lot of different things. And I do, from a more critical standpoint, have concerns about this maybe spreading itself too thin. Like, for instance, I've noticed that they often show you moving through crowded spaces or cities, but they never show you interacting with anyone, but mostly they just focus on the flashy combat side of things, which is all well and good, but does leave me with some questions about things like, of course, the quality of side content or other systems beyond combat as an example. But with that said, at the core of this one seems to be a tale of revenge as you seek to get back against the leader of a rival faction who seems to have killed a few of your friends. But it'll be interesting simply to see whether this one succeeds or fails, at least for me personally. Moving on, however, next up we can then talk about the upcoming Gothic Remake. So, at the urging of quite a few people, I checked out the original Gothic some years ago and then went on to cover its sequels as well, and Gothic 1, I think if you play through it with an open mind and an understanding of its place in video game history, is honestly surprisingly still pretty good. Obviously not the freshest looking game by today's standards, but the fact that a game like that came out before Morrowind even, and then just sadly kind of floundered due to some publishing and availability in certain places and all this other stuff, is a bit of a bummer, and I think the Gothic Remake is the chance for that game to actually get a chance to shine, and you can actually already check it out via a demo that puts you in the shoes of another character rather than the main protagonist of what will ultimately be the finalized game. And through that demo, I will say it's mostly looking pretty good, and I'm excited to check out the tale of the nameless hero in better graphical fidelity at the very least. Everything else, though, is stuff I'm excited to re-experience including the things that they have said they have added on to. Either way, though, really enjoyed my time with the original Gothic, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this remake ultimately. Because even if it doesn't do well personally, I do think Gothic and this remake by default does speak to a very specific RPG niche that it will be fun to see get fulfilled here for fans of that specific thing, if nothing else. Not done yet, however, because next up we've got a title that is just generically meant to release sometime in 2026, but the game itself is quite interesting, with it being Control Resonant. Now this just recently got announced at the Game Awards a few weeks ago for a 2026 release, and yet what you'd be forgiven for not knowing, because I haven't covered a ton of Remedy's games, is that Control, the game that this is a sequel to, was one of my earlier reviews, and I enjoyed it a lot, and if anything I'm hoping Control Resonant will give me the opportunity to finally get some motivation and finish up things like Alan Wake 1 and 2 that people have been asking me about, since I really enjoyed Control, though I will say I don't think those are necessarily required playing here, given that it looks like we're going to be put in the shoes of Jesse Faden, the character from the original game's brother, who will be fighting his way through a reality-warped Manhattan while taking what also appears to be a much more physical approach to his powers, as compared to the more, I would say, ranged options that seem to be presented with Jesse in the first title, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Either way, looking forward to this one quite a bit. Though that does bring us to our final entry, and this one is Blood of Dawnwalker. This one also just has a generic 2026 release window, but the game itself, on the other hand, is doing a few interesting things that have certainly caught my eye beyond just the aesthetics and power, but the gist of it is you play a sort of half-vampire, having to fight back against a group of vampires who have taken over a vale, with the catch being that you only have so much time to do that, and every quest you undertake and every sort of deliberate action around completing those quests will advance time a bit, meaning that there should be some inherent replayability in effect for all of that. And I'm really interested in seeing how that mechanic specifically pans out, because I do think it's probably going to be make or break for the experience as a whole. Now the good news there is, I know timing mechanics like that tend to put people off, myself included, but the good news, or at least semi-good news I suppose, is that this does just seem to be primarily tied to the quest. Meaning that you'll be able to, go explore and just generally run around and find things on your own time with no particular rush. And then more recently in an AMA that they did over on, I think it was Reddit, they also mentioned that the game doesn't actually end when that timer is gone. It's just that your goal is to, within that timer, save your family. And it was implied that failing to do that within the timer, won't end the game, but would seemingly just see your family killed, which is perhaps just one facet of the potential endings. And I guess that kind of thing and the interplay between them is really what I'm most interested in about with this game. But for the moment, I would say that is pretty much going to do it. Now, at the same time, since we are just a couple of days away from the beginning of 2026, probably worth a mention that there are a ton of games that I am waiting on potentially hearing from in the next year. There are several games that I hope we see released in 2026 that we just don't have any confirmation or word about at the moment. And I would imagine during the, sort of industry shows that inevitably take place at certain events, like the Developer Direct, the recent summer showcases that all pop up right around the first week or so of June, that kind of thing, is likely when we'll start hearing about some of those. So with any luck, this will not be the entirety of everything we have to look forward to. And realistically, these are just the ones I am excited about. Here in probably another couple weeks, I will post a video talking about all of the games I plan on reviewing in 2026, both new and old. But for now, this is just the stuff I'm excited about. So hopefully you are excited about at least some of these yourself. But either way, I'd love to hear about it down in the comment section below, which naturally means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.